And you have a Facebook, the hustle group that
Mhm.
22,000 people. And we talked about your side hustles. What kind of drove you to start that was there some other platform for that first? Was it people who
Yeah.
were reading your blog?
It all
What happened?
started from Periscope. I was live streaming. I was live streaming from the lab with the minions when I was doing like the Amazon stuff, and I would share like real what I was actually doing. Like, hey, you can make extra money. This is what I'm literally doing. And I would show the money that I would make, everything. I was complete open book, which I think was different at the time because not a lot of people were doing it. Like I was giving you the full recipe for what I was doing. So people tuned into my Periscope lives all the time. And they actually asked me to create a group. Like we need to discuss the stuff, and, chit chat and go through all the different side hustles and things. So I very reluctantly created the group because they asked me to create the group. I said, I don't need another thing. I've got a lot going on. And they were, we'll help you manage it. And they did. They really did. So it was really my audience that forced the creation of the group. And then it turned into a, if you build it, they will come kind of situation. Because I didn't know that there were people really out there who were looking for different solutions and things that they can do. But what really sustained it and what really made me want to continue it was the things that I was doing in HR and having to lay people off. And I tell this story times where we were doing a mass layoff, and I think we were laying off, I don't remember, 100 people or something that day. And this is in person. So it wasn't a Zoom thing. You had to actually see people, look them
One
in
at
the
a time.
face, one at a time.
Wow.
Yes. It wasn't sit everybody down on the Zoom meeting and, hey, at the end of the day, you guys are done and you kill their access. No, it was person by person, face to face. And there was this older gentleman. He had to have been in his late 50s. So he was like my stepdad's age at the time. He was working for that company while I was coming out of college. He was already at the company. And I had to lay him off. And his boss didn't want him to go. His boss is sad. But when you do a mass layoff, you are required, so that it is not discriminatory, to balance who's getting laid off. You cannot have too many men or too many women. You cannot just have too many people who are over 40. You have to balance things. So sometimes you're letting go of people you really don't want to let go of. And that was the case with him. And so in order to like mitigate, it's an open office floor, everybody had their cubicles and stuff. To mitigate what I would say is like the embarrassment, I sent the rest of the team for a team meeting and had him stay so that they wouldn't
Okay.
be there. Of course, we had our conversation in a conference room with his manager, and I delivered the news to him and had the manager leave to take the rest of the team meeting, so that they wouldn't be there when I went back to the desk with him to pack his things up. But when I told him he was being let go, it was the look of utter despair on this man's face. Like, I never tell this part of the story when I tell it, but the look on his face was, if there was a bridge nearby, I had no doubt that he would have jumped off that bridge.
Mm.
Absolutely. Like he was blindsided. And rightfully, he'd never gotten a negative review. He'd been with this company for a very long time. Why was he being let go?
Yeah.
But he was just so blindsided. And I knew that had to be the feeling that my stepdad had felt as well. Worked for a particular company, and then he's laid off. He's given all these years, and he's right about to turn 60, and only a couple more years left before you can officially retire. And it's harder when you're, older person and you're getting let go to find a job. And just that look on his face, Harlan, has stayed with me for the last decade and change. And maybe it's for me balancing my karma. And I realized that I've been on the other side of being let go, but I was always lucky to find a job, right? But I realized that there were a lot more people that were like him. And there were a lot more people that were high wage earners who were being let go all the time, who always needed to supplement their income. So beyond the people that would find me and follow the group because they found me in Periscope, and I realized that there really was a genuine need for people to continue to supplement their income because people let go every single day. And unemployment is not enough to live. And definitely not if you're in New York, where I am. You can't pay your mortgage with unemployment. And they take tax out of it too. So I wanted to make sure that I could provide a resource for people who didn't know maybe that there is this thing that they could do. was more like the gig economy was really popular, and I would go through the different things that they could potentially do, feature a different side hustle or two every week. Sometimes we would do deep dives into things, free training classes on stuff, so that people could either create a small business or find a side hustle that they could use to supplement their income. And they were really good success stories I'm really proud of. I feel like I made an impact, that group.
Mhm. So I want to change gears a little bit and talk about Elevate Community. Why did you put that together? What's that about?
Yeah, it's funny. Elevate came about because I really got frustrated with how personal finance was ignoring people of color and the unique challenges that we face in personal finance. I didn't feel like finance talked to us at all
Mhm.
in any way, shape, or form. We were completely ignored. And I would see so much of my audience gravitate to me once I was no longer anonymous, like when they could see my face, my audience changed. Okay. My audience used to be, well, 50% men and racially ambiguous. But once my face was out there, because I was anonymous for a while, then it shifted to mostly Black women. It let me know that people were looking for people who look like them to get
Mhm.
information from them because they were not seeing us out there. We were invisible. So initially, Elevate was formed of a mastermind group of the people in personal finance who I knew who were primarily reaching audiences that were people of color. And I initially formed the mastermind group and help each other out and have, hey, do you know this person over here? This person, meet that person. So we can like interact with each other. And if there were like opportunities, so we could pass opportunities along to each other
Mhm.
and really just help each other kind of grow within the business. I said, okay, we're doing these things, but I think we could collectively, if we come together, make a difference and talk to the audience and not ignore race, right? Why are
Mhm.
we going to ignore the challenges that different people are facing? It was literally meant to talk to the audience that existed that we weren't getting talked to. We were getting ignored. I saw finance start to finally really talk to women, right? Because women were ignored for a very long time. And I saw Fidelity create like a women's investment fund, right? They did that and really started to try to target women, but I didn't see it really happening with people of color. What I saw was a lot of predatory lending and things like that that targeted the community. I didn't see education and information that really targeted the community in a meaningful way. And so I wanted us to make a difference in a way that made sense and reach our audience with the information that I thought that they could use.
Mhm.
Now the events were a whole different thing. I realized that they're two different events. And I don't think people realize that they're two different events. There's influencer, where again, we talk amongst ourselves, we learn things, it's done like you do with Plutus. And then there's Elevate, the public facing, which I think I've always wanted it to talk about some of the historical constructs on race and money and not shy away from the topic of how that impacts us and how we can thrive in spite of, or yeah. So
Mhm.
I think we avoid the topic too much. I can't avoid. I'm a Black immigrant woman in my 40s. Like I'm checking all these
The whole
boxes.
boxes.
Yeah, all these boxes. And there are other people that are out there who didn't see themselves, and I wanted them to have the information and be alert and be knowledgeable and be able to make informed decisions and turn their lives around as well.
What can content creators do to be more sophisticated in their thoughts about, how racial differences affect, how they're able, how people are able to understand and implement the things that they talk about?
I think we come from such a place of fear, and right now the environment is so charged. But you're on two sides of the spectrum. You want to not talk about it at all, right? For fear of some kind of backlash or whatever. Or it's so in your face and everything is like mudslinging, I feel. There's no like in the middle. And I feel like there is a middle ground there that we can have constructive conversations. But I think that you have to be informed as well. There's a lot of opinion out there. Everyone's got an opinion, but not a lot of nuanced. thought-provoking information. I always wanted to focus on facts and history. So when we did Elevate Black Wall Street, I brought on the preeminent person who could talk about some of the things that the US government had done, specifically redlining and housing and to that really impacted wealth creation in the Black community. And this was a Caucasian man. He was an expert on the subject, right? Wrote the book on the subject. And I brought him in because he had just fact-based information. We go a lot over feelings. And I think doesn't really work if that's something you want to cover. You have to have your facts and your knowledge and be able to walk the line between your own opinions and what's actually real and true, and not be afraid to touch the subject. I know for a fact that when I do this year's Elevate, I expect to get tons of hate mail. I expect it without a doubt. And that's
from
something
the
that,
outside, from people who attend, or
yes, from people who will
okay,
not attend, from people who
yeah,
will not understand, from people who are in my target demographic. I fully expect it. This year's Elevate, it's called Elevate the 92%. The 92% know who the 92% are. The 92% are the 92% of Black women who voted for Kamala Harris.
mm,
So I have heard, and they did Elevate the 92% because the target audience will be the 92%
yeah,
and how we can improve the financial lives of Black women. I know people will say that I'm excluding others. People will say that it's discriminatory, et cetera, et cetera. And I expect it. I think you have to, if you're willing to talk about the tough subjects, you also need to be willing to expect tough feedback and even not even feedback, vitriol and hate
mhm,
from people who don't understand or who are not in the demographic or who have nothing good to say. The
yeah,
people who just talk to talk. And you have to be prepared for that as well. If you are going to cover subjects that people think are controversial. I went into it eyes wide open.
yeah.
I know to expect that.
You
Um,
how do you prepare yourself for that now that hate has been empowered?
yes. No, for me, it's just like water off my back. I really don't
Okay,
care. I'm too old for some stranger on the internet to
yeah,
have an
okay,
impact in my life. I've got a lot of stuff going on.
yeah,
I don't care about these people. But that's just me. I don't know that everybody else would handle it the same way. I know that trolls exist. Well, I sit the line between Gen X and millennial and millennial. I'm here pre-internet. I don't. These people can't. Me, this is my
sure.
feeling.
No, online trolls are one thing. I think it's where you start to see things acted out in
Oh yeah,
large scale,
I have,
things that we saw the last time the administration was the way
yeah.
it is.
So I have a person who works with me most closely. Her colleague was named to a diversity position. And he got death. Threats. He hasn't even done anything. Just for being named to a governmental position that oversees some diversity in contracts.
Mm,
And again, getting death threats from people just for existing in a position.
sure.
And what I said to her was, he had to expect that that would happen just in the environment that we're in. Like I expect it. And I think that I let fear drive me at all. Because if I'm going to do it, I have to expect there are crazies out there at all times. I just expect it. I guess my expectation is just my floor is so low for people these days that nothing
Yeah,
surprises me. But will everybody be able to be like that? No. Can everybody handle that? No. And no, that is not how, that you're not able to handle it, then don't cover topics that you can handle. I look at Stephanie O'Connell. She
mhm,
covers women, like
mhm,
a lot of women in finance, women-based histories. I look at some of the comments that she receives. She doesn't feed
okay,
into them.
yeah,
Yeah. She doesn't feed into them. And she continues to do what she is doing,
yeah,
right? We're still going to highlight how women, the disparities of women in the workplace, women in money, and how we can continue to improve our lives. Because that's her passion project. That is where she has focused. I know she's got to expect the hate, but she doesn't feed into it. She's going to still
sure.
continue. I think you have to have that attitude. If there's something that drives you to do this,
Mhm,
then nothing is going to dissuade you from it. If it is not something that is driving you, if this is just checking a box for you, then maybe you don't want to do it. You don't
yeah.
want to talk about and cover topics that may, be controversial. to some people, not controversial to me.
Your life.
My existence is controversial, right?